All right, Senator Blumenthal, I think you're all set.
Senator Blackburn on?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks for joining, Marsha.
Absolutely.
Hello, everyone. We are a bit limited in terms of time because we have a vote in progress. Senator Blackburn and I were pleased to have with us this morning an extraordinary witness. Frances Haugen was compelling and credible. I have rarely, if ever, seen and heard such a credible and compelling witness on an issue so difficult and challenging. And I think I'll just give you my personal impressions. Frances Haugen wants to fix Facebook, not burn it to the ground. She had constructive recommendations for how to improve it, make it more transparent, enable parents to protect their children. She wants to see an oversight board authorized by Congress. She wants a black box of Facebook algorithms to be open. She wants research to be possible outside of Facebook. Right now, only Facebook can do that research. She wants Section 230 modified so that Facebook can be held accountable legally and its present broad immunity be curtailed. And other kinds of reforms that she's proposed, all of them deserving serious consideration. And some of them I've specifically endorsed: Section 230 recommendations, the oversight board, the transparency suggestion. All are proposals that we have before us through the KIDS Act, the Online Privacy Act. These kinds of protections really have to be taken forward. There was such bipartisan support today in the committee. I think it augurs well for actually getting across the finish line. And she has been a critical catalyst in this effort. She's also provided a lot of hope and encouragement to parents around the country that something can be done to help protect their children. And I think she's provided encouragement to other whistleblowers. And I'm convinced there are others out there who will come forward. She has also, I think, given impetus to reform efforts that will continue with further testimony before our committee. Mark Zuckerberg should come forth voluntarily. He needs to testify in response. The statement made by Facebook, very defensive and demeaning, I think demands much more serious effort by them. And Mark Zuckerberg is the one to answer in the committee before us. We're going to have other tech companies and other witnesses, possibly from Facebook and Instagram. But I think for today, the important point is really how eloquent and persuasive Frances Haugen was with every member of our committee. And I could see from every member of our committee their appreciation for her testimony. I'll just say in conclusion, Facebook has lost trust. There is no reason to trust Facebook. Facebook has to be held accountable. Big tech may be one of the most powerful, implacable corporate giants in the world. It may be one of the most profitable companies ever. And Mark Zuckerberg may be one of the richest people in the history of the world. But today, Frances Haugen showed that one person can stand up to that kind of power and make a difference. She has really gripped the consciousness of Congress today, and I believe made a lasting and enduring difference in how we will regard big tech. I think, without any exaggeration, we're beginning now a different era. I hope it will be different in holding big tech accountable, because no longer can Americans be trusting. They need to understand better, and we need to act. And I'm hoping that today will begin the beginning of a different era. Senator Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, thank you to each of you for your interest in this issue and for covering our press conference today. As you all are aware, Senator Blumenthal and I began working on the issues of big tech accountability, privacy, data security, all in the last Congress on the Technology Task Force at Judiciary Committee. And so we've been able to build on that, and it brings us to the point where we are now. And I so appreciate his willingness to work with us in a bipartisan fashion to address these issues. Frances Haugen did a most commendable job today. I was impressed with her preparation. She was there at the table by herself, no notes, didn't have to reference. There was no, we're going to get back to you. She was prepared. I also thank her for having had the curiosity to look at what Facebook was doing and to do a bit of a dive into the research that was there at Facebook and bring forward what Facebook knew, but had chosen not to share, not to make public, not to use to build a toolbox for parents to work with their children. Now, as Chairman Blumenthal said, action is going to be necessary, and we are moving so close to bipartisan agreement on the issues of online privacy, updates for the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, data security, and Section 230 reform. These are all things that people want to see addressed. I talk to moms in Tennessee every single weekend, and this past weekend, one of the big topics they talked about was their concern with what Instagram, Messenger Kids, and other big tech platforms are doing. So all of these platforms, including Facebook, need to step up and be honest and upfront with the data they have on those platforms, how they use that data, how things harm children. We also need to move forward with transparency for these online platforms. It is very evident now, not only with Facebook, but with others, and especially with Facebook. When you are on their platform, you are the product. You are the product. So these are pieces of information that the public now recognizes, and because of this, it is time for us to take action on these issues. So I will turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman. I do know you and I are going to have to scoot to that vote in a couple of minutes.
Exactly. Thanks so much, Senator Blackburn. Well put. Let's begin with some questions.
Yeah, this is John Eggerton of Multi-Channel News. Do either of you support regulating edge providers as common carriers?
I think we're going to have to look at all the proposals about how to regulate. I'm definitely of the view that some regulation is necessary, at least through the kind of oversight board that has been discussed today. And, you know, the analogy to big tobacco is unmistakable. She drew it in terms of addiction, the harm to children in mental health, possibly physical health, in eating disorders, the long-term effects. the tobacco industry is regulated by the FDA, and whether it is through the FTC or the FCC, some kind of oversight, and perhaps by an independent agency, ought to be done.
John, I think that a simple online privacy with one set of rules for the entire internet ecosystem, one regulator, putting in place opt-in provisions to share sensitive data, opt-out for non-sensitive, and saying these platforms cannot boot you off if you don't give access to their data. So we will look at all of these provisions as we look at privacy, data security, the Section 230 reforms, and now you're going to see, I fully believe you're going to see a bipartisan agreement to move forward. And at the committee, at the subcommittee, we will work through that and work with Ranking Member Wicker and Chairman Cantwell.
You know, one point I'd like to make, just to elaborate, one of the most powerful points that Frances Haugen made today is this company could be vastly profitable, but so much safer. They've just chosen the greediest path to drag down children to dark places and deepen their insecurities and anxieties by maximizing profit. If they took a little bit less money, but emphasized safety in the way they apply algorithms, they could help save lives. And I think it is the height of corporate irresponsibility and reprehensibility that they have these safe paths that they could have chosen on their own without anybody even talking about regulation. And they still have that option, but they've chosen denial and evasion. Still, the statement that they issued today didn't commit to make public any of their files, didn't commit to any course of correction, didn't commit to adopt any of the recommendations that have been made by their own researchers and were rejected repeatedly, as Frances Haugen said today. So I think that they should really come forward and tell us on the record in testimony, and Mark Zuckerberg's the one to do it.
Thank you.
This is Lynn Stanton at TR Daily. Are there any pieces of legislation that you're prepared now to move forward, or do you feel you need to wait to let Facebook have an opportunity to testify?
The KIDS Act is ready to move forward. The online privacy improvements are ready to move forward. If Facebook wants to come testify in 10 days or a couple of weeks when we come back from the October recess, we'll be ready to hear them. I don't want to speak for the ranking member, Senator Blackburn, but we'll work out a schedule if they're willing to come forward. But as you noted from last Thursday, their approach right now, the Mark Zuckerberg playbook at this point is no apologies, no admissions, no action, nothing to see here. Well, there is a lot to see in those documents. As I said today to Frances Haugen, she is not alone. She came armed. Those thousands of pages of documents tell a riveting story of corporate irresponsibility. And it is at the highest levels of that corporation.
Yeah, Lynn, we have several different pieces of privacy legislation. Different members mentioned it today. So whether it is the privacy, the data security, or the Section 230, we will work out where those commonalities are, resolve those differences. And I think that rather sooner rather than later, that you will see us ready to move something forward. I also know that we have colleagues over on the House side who are hearing from people just as we are, and they are ready to move forward with online privacy, updating COPPA, doing something with data security in Section 230 also.
Thanks, Lynn. John Craven?
Senator, long time no see.
Yeah.
Can you just speak to your office's experiment where you created an Instagram account as a 13-year-old and some of the sites that were recommended through the algorithm?
We created a Instagram account for a 13-year-old and expressed interest in dieting, weight loss, eating disorders, and that account was deluged within 24 hours with recommendations for accounts that involved eating disorders and self-injury. And we can give you more detail on exactly what those accounts were. But the point here was, and the witness today, the whistleblower confirmed it, that experience is not unusual. In fact, she wasn't surprised. That's the way the algorithms work.
Senator, I know you've said that you're looking into if Mark Zuckerberg or Facebook has misled Congress or lied to Congress in previous testimony. When will you be making that determination, and what will be the consequences if Facebook is found to have lied to Congress?
I'm not going to speculate on either the timing or the consequences. I think we ought to be concerned always if we feel that we were misled or deceived. Senator Blackburn and I asked some very specific questions in a letter we wrote on August 4th. The company, in effect, denied knowledge about subject areas that clearly they had researched. They had surveys, reports, recommendations, more than just the two that they announced. And we'd want to look at what they said in their letter compared to what the documents revealed, and also previous testimony by any of the Facebook witnesses in light of those documents. But as to when we would reach conclusions, I can't say. Obviously, we want to look at the testimony on Thursday and previously to determine what was said.
Thank you.
Senator, Haugen said earlier this week that she did not share documents disclosed to your offices and to the Journal with the FTC, which has pursued the breakup of Facebook in court. She doesn't think that's the best path forward. Did your offices play any role in the decision not to share those documents with the FTC? And do you intend to provide those documents to the FTC now?
Well, the answer to the first question is no. The answer to the second question is technically those documents are in her possession. If we feel that they indicate any violations of law, we may feel we have a duty to share them with the FTC, but I think she's going to be cooperative and we'll want to talk to her before we do. I've recommended the FTC look into it, and if they ask us for the documents or her, my feeling is that we should make them available. The SEC should investigate her claims. They are credible and significant, worthy of investigation. And she is worthy of whistleblower protection, which is afforded by the Dodd-Frank Act, very specifically the result of Congress legislating with the leadership of Chris Dodd and Congressman Frank.
Thank you.
Senator, this is Dave Perera from MLEX. I wonder if you can talk a little bit more about this legislation that's coming down the pike. Are we talking about a comprehensive privacy bill? Are we talking about algorithmic regulation, Section 230, all of the above? And what would, when it comes to privacy, a compromise on right of private action look like?
As you know, right now, Section 230 affords near complete immunity, in effect, a legal shield to any responsibility or accountability by Facebook and other tech companies. That shield was the result of legislation in a very different time when this industry was nascent, and the fear was that it would be suffocated by possible lawsuits. The industry is very far from nascent, one of the most powerful and wealthy in the world, and also acting in a way that really demands accountability. And so I would see curtailing that legal shield and immunity so as to give victims and survivors of harms that occur as a result of content on the internet some recourse, some day in court, and legal remedy. The exact contours of that kind of right really have to be defined, and that will be the challenge. But the basic idea is give a legal remedy to people who are harmed if Facebook or any other tech company accepts and amplifies content that may be harmful. And the extent of the harm would determine the amount of the remedy, if it's financial or other kinds of immunity. So other kinds of exceptions to immunity. So I think it is a question that need to be explored and maybe part of a comprehensive approach, but also maybe taken in pieces. There are potential privacy legislation. Senator Moran and I have been working for a couple of years. And as both of us remarked today, the testimony before our committee will provide very powerful impetus toward a privacy bill. The KIDS Act provides potential kinds of guardrails on the amplifiers, particularly the algorithms of certain kinds of content. There are a range of measures, those are some of them. And then of course, the oversight mechanism, another potential step forward. And each really deserves consideration on its own, but they could be combined.
Yeah, this is Marsha. Let me just say that the good thing is, whether you're looking at the filter bubble, whether you're want to say algorithms or privacy or data security or Section 230, you have members of our subcommittee that have become very engaged in this issue. And they're doing it because the people that they represent are wanting to see some accountability in this virtual space. Because of that, going through the different provisions, finding out where we can get that consensus, that bipartisan agreement, what we can move forward, what we can push to completion with action in the House and the Senate, to allow Americans that are online, that have so much of their transactional and functional life online, that want that toolbox to protect their children. This will be our priority. And as you have seen from the interest in the work that we are doing, you all are interested in it, and you're interested in it because people that read your columns, that watch your shows, they are interested in it. So this is going to be an exciting time to see how we move forward with putting the right kind of guide rails in place for the virtual space.
David Shepardson, I see, has a hand up.
Oh, thank you, Senator. Thanks both of you for doing this this call today. I guess, do you think Congress is really going to get it done this time, right? I mean, obviously, you've been discussing various problems that Facebook has been labeled as causing for years, right? I mean, is something actually going to get done, or do you think it's just going to be, another couple months of discussions, then it gets pushed into next year?
There's always reason for skepticism about Congress acting on any issue. But there are times when the dynamic is so powerful that something actually is done. And I think this issue may be one where the power of bipartisan outrage and support really enables us to cross the finish line. I have rarely, if ever, seen the kind of unanimity on display today and Thursday. If you closed your eyes without knowing who was talking, you wouldn't know whether it was a Republican or Democrat. You wouldn't know what part of the country they were from, because everywhere, red state, blue state, east and west, every part of the country has the harms that are inflicted by Facebook and Instagram. The kinds of content pushed to young people that inflicts these harms. And I think Frances Haugen so eloquently described how kids coming home from school have no relief from the bullying. It follows them home into their bedrooms before they go to bed at night. The eating disorder pitches are no longer limited to one kind of setting. It is all around them. And the damage that's inflicted on can haunt them for a lifetime. And I think an entire generation may be harmed. As overblown as some may feel that description is, every parent knows it's true. At least most do, because whether or not they're aware of it, they should be. And it is a constant present danger. And again, if Facebook and Instagram are serious about trying to help parents, they will come forward and be part of the solution, not just the problem.
Yeah, one thing I would add to that is people have gotten tired of big tech firms and these social media platforms pretending they're the gods of the universe. And they want to take back control of their online privacy. They want the ability to protect their children online. And as Senator Blumenthal said, there is agreement that something has to be done to put these guardrails in place.
Margaret McGill.
Great, thank you. This is Margaret McGill with Axios here. I'm hoping you can talk a little bit about what more you hope to learn from Facebook's internal research. And also, given that Mark Zuckerberg has testified before Congress several times now, what do you hope to gain or accomplish by having him come before your committee?
There are a lot of questions from Mark Zuckerberg, like why he rejected all of these seemingly worthwhile recommendations in the reports and research. Why did he recommend his own researchers' recommendations? They're among the most qualified and insightful in the world, as Frances Haugen said today. What is he prepared to do to make the site safer and save lives? What other kinds of research is in their files? We may have only a part of it from Frances Haugen. There are a lot of questions, new questions, and old questions that have stronger relevance now and urgency that we would want to ask him. So, I think there's a lot to hear from him. Lauren Feiner.
Hi, thank you for doing this. Lauren Feiner with CNBC. Two quick questions. The first, just how prepared are you to subpoena Mark Zuckerberg's testimony? And second, even though it does seem like there is bipartisan agreement that there needs to be something done here, is there agreement this time around on what exactly that should be?
Let me just say one thing, Lauren, when it comes to agreement, like I said, we're beginning to hear, and as you have heard from different members, people are very focused on addressing the online privacy needs for users in general and also for children. So because of that, there is a foundation to take action that we have not had in the past. And when it comes to what we would hear differently from Mr. Zuckerberg, we have these documents that have been turned over now, and it allows us to have a better look so that we can do a deeper dive and be able to ask more direct questions as opposed to being able to ask more general questions. And Mr. Chairman, I'm late for another meeting, so I'm going to scoot, and then I'll see you on the floor.
I'll see you then. Thanks very, very much, Senator Blackburn. Lauren, I think I missed the first part of your question. I was trying to get it from others.
No problem. My first question was, how prepared are you to subpoena Mark Zuckerberg's testimony?
Our hope is always that people will voluntarily appear when invited. And the question of subpoena, I think, is a little bit premature. We'd have to talk to the chairman of the committee. But I think Mark Zuckerberg ought to be before this committee. He ought to want to come before our committee if he feels there are any inaccuracies here or need to clarify any of these points. He ought to be before us, and he has a public responsibility to answer these questions. So I am very hopeful he will on his own appear. Ryan Tracy, and I think that may be the last.
Hi, Senator, thanks. Can you speak to 2 points? One is, in addition to additional hearings and testimony, are you looking for documents or information that, and can you tell us what you'll be asking for to continue to kind of pull on this thread? And then also, there was a point today where the witness talked about national security concerns that she had. And you said that you thought that might be a topic for further inquiry. I was just wondering if you could elaborate a bit on what's up with that and what you think, where you think that may lead.
The witness today, Frances Haugen, commented on the potential infiltration of the site by foreign adversaries. I think that is an issue that we need to pursue. Senator Sullivan and I and others on the committee intend to do so. We're going to do it separately. I spoke to Ms. Haugen after the hearing privately, and she has offered to be cooperative on any of the topics that have been raised today. And she is very, very sincerely interested in helping to continue to make a difference. You know, she's put her career at significant risk. She's made sacrifices. And I think she's going to be an important force for reform in a number of different areas. Again, I want to thank her in this venue as I did during the committee. So we will pursue those issues. And, you know, I think that on other material that we may be seeking, we've already asked for exactly the kind of documents that the whistleblower disclosed. The company refused to provide them. In fact, even declined to acknowledge their existence in response to our earlier letter, which is beyond disappointing. So I think if there's more there, we need to see it. The company has an obligation to provide it. And to say that this company is morally bankrupt is far from an exaggeration, given what we see as lack of truth-telling. So I'm hoping there'll be more forthcoming. Thank you, everyone.
Recording stopped.